Okay guys, today's project, we're going to change this ball joint, and the first thing I want to do before I jack it up is we're going to take a breaker bar and we're going to loosen these lug nuts. Okay, we took the wheel off, and as you can see, this ball joint is shot. The boot's gone. It's not like the olden days where you just routinely grease these with an oil change. This vehicle has only got 80,000 miles on it, and the ball joints are shot. And if I had the wheel on, I'd show you how the play we got in it right here. There's a really good video on YouTube where a guy cuts this apart, and I might just do that to show you guys. The inside of it is plastic. We got that bolt and that bolt, but the only way to get those bolts off is to remove the springs and the shocks. But look what it's done to my tires. I had no idea because I didn't look at the inside, but this has just happened in the last, see? Now it costs, this ball joint's costing me a set of tires. Darn it. Ball joint loose, you need an 18 millimeter, but as you can see, as you turn this, the whole thing spins. Now some people will try vice grips in there, but you're gripping rubber. So what you need to do is get an 8 millimeter, 1/4 inch, and put right there, and hold it there, and put your wrench right there and back this nut off. But for just a minute, we're gonna go just like that. And as you can see, you can spin it right off there. Now to get these bolts there and there, I'm afraid the nut is right there under the fuse box. The other one I think I can access with the socket right back there, but this one, right, if it would just focus, it's right there. Okay guys, here's the progress. These bolts here have a keeper tab that prevents you from turning the bolt on the inside. See that? You've got to take these off from the outside. Now I messed up because I should have done this side first. This side, they're real easy to get to. See that? This bracket needs to come loose, but the third bolt is down in here and I can't even touch it with my finger. Okay, so I get these two bolts loose, and I've been trying to take this connection loose here, but I can't get it to come loose. So we got those two bolts. These two bolts here come off the fuse box, and the third bolt that's holding it in is down here. And once again, without taking the brake booster and this off, there is no way, and there's a wiring harness right across it. So I managed to slide this wrench in here and loosen it up 1/8 of a turn at a time. Just trying to give me a little bit of play, and now at this point I can move, I can get a little bit of play in this to get to that right there. I'm telling you, they purposely make these things so you can't work on them. To pull that bolt off, because you can't just take the nut off because it's got this big fender washer on there. I was able to get this off from there is with a ratchet like that. I don't know how you could possibly do it without a ratchet like that, because I had to get this angle right there to be able to fit. So I got it to come back in here like that. Guys, I've managed to wiggle that nut loose good enough, I think, by loosening these 3 bolts up to move the fuse box out to get that loose enough. Now at this point, we got the control arm loose. Oh, and by the way, if you're not bleeding and tearing your hands up, you ain't working hard enough. But anyways, so we got that one out. That one's loose. So I'm trying to rig up something to keep this thing halfway lined up. We got a jack under the bottom, because now what we have to do is we got to take the shock absorber, the spring, the strut, whatever you want to call it, all that's got to come out, and then have to take these bolts here loose. Next step is those 4 bolts. Okay guys, here's where the fun part starts. Okay, we got the shock loose, but we can't get it dropped down enough. I was hoping just to slide it out of the cradle there a little bit to get the bolt out, but it ain't working. So we're gonna have to take that loose right there, I guess. Took the sway bar links loose, and when you do that, look out, because it's going to pop up, because it's hanging. It literally was hanging from the sway bar link, and you've got the bolts down here, okay, and then the nuts right there. Had to take bottom of the strut off, and you got to get better have some big star bits, okay. But this is the keeper on the rear one that keeps it from turning. Okay guys, there it's out. So what I did, used a little bit of pressure, pull this down to pull it out of its perch, and just lay it over to the side. If I had spring compressors, I'd probably be done already, but installation tip: lightly tighten the bolts during installation. The final tightening should be done to the specific torque value when the tires are on the ground with the vehicle's weight loading the suspension. Why is this important? If you tighten the bolts while the wheels are off the ground without the weight applied, the vehicle weight applied, the strain on the bushings could premature cause control arm bushing failure. Okay guys, I messed up. Okay, you want to put the shock back up in here, strut, and get it captured on the perch. Okay, and we put our bolt back there. Okay, but I screwed up. I forgot to attach our sway bar linkage. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I forgot to put the sway bar linkage on. So that's one thing that holds everything up, is that sway bar bushing. Once you took it out, it all dropped, what would you say, 4 inches there? Okay, you're going to need a T30 to put in the end there when you tighten the nut down, or else it's just going to spin on you. Okay, here's the ball joint. See how much lateral play there is there? How much up and down play? So, I don't know if the camera's going to show it or not. Right there, you can see another layer, and that's plastic. So right here, if you look, there's a plastic insert. See that? I don't know if that's going to be a better picture there or not. But right there, if we can pull any of it out. But it's white plastic. There. Alright guys, there you go. Isn't the new one pretty? I do put lithium grease around the bolts and everything before I put it back together. It also helps to slide it in there real easy. But isn't the blue ring around that just pretty? So this side here, so the driver's side didn't take me 30 minutes to do. Once I get the wheel off, get it jacked up and the wheel off, all you have to do is take loose your 4 strut bolts, that bolt, the other bolt there, and drop sway bar. Take your sway bar linkage loose and it'll drop down. On this side I didn't have to take the lower part of the strut loose, and just take a pry bar and pry it down, pull the strut out of the perch and put your new one on. It doesn't take 30 minutes to do the left side here. The right side took quite a bit longer. It's not really that big of a job. Hey guys, it really doesn't take any special tools except for this ratchet. If you don't have one, you need to get one. It's like 10 bucks at Harbor Freight, not very expensive. So you need a 17. Is that 15 deep well? That's a 19. I was using those on the lug nuts. 17 ratchet wrench, 13 ratchet wrench, 18, and a couple of those. You do need an 8mm to take the control arm, the ball joint nut off. So 1/2 inch extension with the reducer if you need to power through. Top of the struts, nuts, just a typical. Did use a little pry bar to pull out the bolts that go into the control arm, and a torque. And if you're gonna take the strut off, you need a T60 and pry bar. Other than that, there's really no special tools. This ratchet wrench helped a lot in those tight spaces, having a 13 ratchet wrench and the 17.